Hello, everyone. Dr. Constance here with another episode of Munch and Learn with Dr. Constance, where I give you short yet impactful health education sessions that combine my love for food and passion for healthy living. I'm excited for today's episode because I'm going to start getting more into sharing a little food culture and specific ingredients that are an awesome opportunity for all of us to expand our palate and make our everyday food a little bit more interesting, especially from the lens of Western living. So those of us who are American might not be exposed to cooking with, perhaps we've eaten it, but not necessarily exposed to cooking with many different spices and sauces and ingredients that are available all around the world. And to me, that's what makes food so exciting and why I am a self-proclaimed foodie. And what I want to highlight today is an ingredient called Harissa. I actually have the jar here. This particular brand of Harissa was ordered on Amazon, but it's crazy because I realized once it came in the mail that is actually from Trader Joe's. So there's a Trader Joe's in my city, so I could have just gone to pick it up, but who doesn't love the convenience of Amazon? And I love this because harissa is a flavor bomb, you guys. So what is harissa exactly? It is a popular condiment that is used in North Africa, Middle Eastern countries, in the Mediterranean, that combines hot chili peppers, garlic, oil, and different spices to create a paste. So this particular harissa has the red peppers, garlic, sunflower oil, coriander, citric acid, which is really sort of just like a lemon juice, lime juice, and caraway. So I'm telling you, one of the reasons why I decided to feature this is I recently went to the restaurant Cava, and I don't go often, but I realized that I generally tend to get the harissa-based items because I enjoy a little bit of a kick with my meal. And this does it just right without overwhelming your palate too much. Remembering that pepper in and of itself does not have to be inherently scorching. There are different types of peppers that hit different parts of the tongue and palate to create a joyous experience. And I hope to get into some other examples of that later episodes, but I encourage you to try this. Please stay tuned. I have a recipe in mind that I want to use this harissa for. So if you're not already, follow me on social media at Beyond Clinic Walls Wellness, both on Instagram and Facebook, to see what I cook up. Okay. So, and now that we have finished the munch part of the podcast, let's get into the learn part. And February is American Heart Month, and it's an opportunity for us to take a time to discuss heart disease prevention. And so, heart disease encompasses many things, but those that more dramatically contribute to deaths, especially here in the United States, is coronary artery disease, which is blocking of the arteries, which can be compounded by hypertension. Also, congestive heart failure is another common cause of heart disease. And much of what we do to combat heart disease should be creating a lifestyle that encourages us to be our best self with or without heart disease. Ideally, we would be preventing our bodies from developing heart disease. But when in doubt, there is always time to change the things that we do to positively impact your health. And in this conversation, I recently did an Instagram Instagram live, excuse me, with a friend and colleague of mine, Cliff Barnett. And in this particular Instagram live, we also talked about American Heart Month, but also took a Black History Month spin on it and had conversations surrounding Black culture and things that we feel as healthcare professionals is important to tell specifically our community about how to adjust a little bit to improve lifestyle. And I think it's important to even define what that actually looks like, because a lot of times when we say lifestyle, diet and exercise go under that umbrella. And that is true, but certainly lifestyle is just in general how you live, which of course includes what you eat and how much you exercise, but it's the totality of what you do. So where you work, where you live, how you get to work. All of those things are a part of your lifestyle, including your smoking history, and other habits that you might have that we don't always inherently include in lifestyle conversations. And during this conversation, we brought up the idea or the reality, the concept of blue zones. And blue zones are areas throughout the world that have the healthiest, longest living populations with a good quality of life through older age. And there are 5 original blue zones, and I have them listed, so I'll read them off so I don't mess that up. But we have Okinawa, Japan, Sardinia, Italy, Nicoya Peninsula, Costa Rica, Icaria, Greece, and Loma Linda, California. So yes, they're one of these blue zones right here on American soil. And there are 9 characteristics of these blue zones that we need to go over, because sometimes we kind of get a little bit in despair and feel like we are a lost cause. There's no way for us to make these adjustments. But I think you find by the end of this list that there are very much so things that we can do independently every day to positively impact our health without significantly changing the way that we live. And so the first one on the list of 9, and the blue zone entity calls this the Power 9 list. Okay, so these are characteristics that are shared throughout all 5 of the original blue zones. And again, this is a way to set the tone and kind of create your own blue zone within your community or even household. And the first one is to move naturally. So certainly we always talk about exercise or physical exercise in particular, but members of the 5 original blue zones live in environments that encourage activity. So inherent to how they live, they are naturally active. What might that look like? And I would say that this is the hardest one to execute on the list, because our communities, or the layout, the infrastructure of our communities is going to be harder to adjust for. But what that looks like is they don't always use cars or even have access to cars. They're not using as many mechanical conveniences that we routinely use. So they're working in the yard to grow their food. They are walking to and from markets. They are working in jobs that require them to be physical. And certainly the way that we live in a more industrialized civilization is that many of us are at desk or in office spaces. And so that is not inherent to what we do. And hence why traditionally we have more emphasis on physical exercise to help maintain our health. But one way to start incorporating that into how it is that you live is taking the time to walk your neighborhood if it's safe, taking the time to tend your lawn if you have one, walking through your apartment building to facilitate being more active in your natural environment. And that actually lends to one of the others, and I'm going out of order a little bit because I think that that was a good segue, is that having social networks. So when you are naturally moving in your community, that gives you the opportunity to build that social network because you are regularly exposing yourself to those people within the community. Because let's be honest, have you heard the saying, misery loves company? But just as misery loves company, happiness does too. Okay. Happiness, loneliness, smoking, substance abuse, all of those things are contagious because another cliche, birds of a feather flock together, right? So the more you surround yourself with like minded people, the more likely you are to have people that have behaviors similar to you, therefore the ability to maintain a healthy lifestyle and live longer. Okay. The second, or the third in this case, of the Power Nine concepts that are consistent throughout all of the 5 original blue zones is purpose. And we often talk about these things. It's having a reason to get out of the bed anymore in the morning. It is knowing that you have a sense of purpose, something that gives you a spark, a twinkle in your eye, that gives you a drive to do what it is that you need to do on a daily basis. In addition to that, the fourth is a downshift. And what does that mean? Really, that's code word for systematic ways to decompress. Okay. We are not unaware. It is common knowledge that stress negatively impacts our health over time. It can increase inflammation, negatively impact blood sugar control, blood pressure control. It can lead to heavier weights than we want. And for some people, makes you unnecessarily lose weight. It could go either way. And having intentional ways to decompress every day is important. What that looks like in many of the 5 original blue zones varies, but includes prayers, taking naps or having a siesta, right? Reflection, and in particular, the members of the communities in Okinawa often reflect on their ancestors and think about the past and where they are now. And even having happy hour. So a time to sit and drink and be merry together. So while I cannot endorse alcohol as a health food, alcohol can indeed be included in a healthy lifestyle. And let's get into that, right? Because that is one of the Power Nine characteristics, is wine at 5. Okay. Members of all of the blue zones minus Loma Linda, California, and the reason why is that particular blue zone community is comprised a lot of 7-day Adventists, and their thoughts and behaviors surrounding alcohol are a bit different. But outside of those people who practice that particular faith, drink 1 to 2 glasses of wine daily. And we talked a little bit about this on the Instagram live that we have, so please check that out. I will definitely lock that in, connected to this particular conversation. But moderate alcohol use actually extends life a little bit. I mean, I don't know how we can justify that. If I had to be honest, it is a thing, and researchers are looking for more information on why that's the case. And so we talked about Loma Linda and the fact that 7-day Adventists don't participate in the wine at 5 concept, but that is a part of their the Power 9 concepts, is belonging. Of all of the blue zones, all of them belong to some faith-based community. The denomination doesn't matter, but belonging and having a practice related to faith is a characteristic of longevity. So, of course, this doesn't mean that if you're agnostic that you don't have the chance to live longer and healthy, but it's just the common characteristics in those communities. Additionally, they often put their family first. So even during aging, Parents and grandparents remain close to their children and other family members. So whether they're physically in the home or nearby, that is something that's prioritized to help successfully usher them into older age with the support that they need. And that's certainly a concept that I have seen, especially as a physician, that I hope and pray and will make it my business to hold true in my own family, is that I will take care of my family better than anyone else, right? Because I am invested in their outcome directly. Um, their outcomes directly reflect who I am. They have taken care of me, so it's only right that I can take care of them when they are in need. And that, of course, feeds into the social networks and feeds into the belonging, right? So we've talked about social networks. We talked about putting family first, belonging, that a little wine ain't never hurt nobody. We've also talked about moving naturally in our environment and learning how to decompress and including that in our regular way of living. But the next conversation is really about food, okay? So they call it the 80% rule, in which the people of the 5 original blue zones have conversations about only eating until they're about 80% full. And I would like to spin that a little bit to fit more conceptually and to be a little bit more neutral in the conversations that we have about food. And that mostly means that there is a mindfulness process in how members of the blue zone interact with food. So they are taking the time to sit and think about how they feel in the moment instead of more blindly eating their food. But also, it just so happens that their smallest meal is the last meal of the day. And this generally happens in late afternoon or early evening. And after that, they don't eat anymore. So, and certainly that's an interesting concept that might not work for everyone, but something to consider if we have not tried it yet and we have some feelings physically that we're working on. That is a potential tactic to work at. And I would say the biggest one that I would still work on, that I am still working on myself, but I think is a very valuable conversation to have, is the fact that members of the blue zone have a slant in their diet, meaning it's heavier on plant-based items versus animal protein. And what this looks like in practice is that beans are king in all of the blue zones. So whether it's the lentils of the Mediterranean regions like Sardinia and Ankara, Greece, it is black beans in Costa Rica, it is soybeans in Okinawa, and that is inherent to all of those cultures. But then what is very interesting is while they are only eating animal-based protein about 5% of the time, pork is one of the heavier, more commonly eaten animal-based proteins, which I thought was amazingly interesting because here in the United States, it's certainly villainized. And it's just a reminder that we can include those things in our diet, but perhaps not as often as we do in our country. So certainly something to think about. So let's go over all 9 of these Power 9 concepts. Move naturally in your environment. So that's finding ways to be active, whether or not you physically go to the gym. That can positively impact your health. Having purpose. What gets you out of the bed in the morning? That's going to positively impact your health as well. Downshift and learning how to decompress in a healthy way, and not only doing it sometimes, but every day. Being more mindful about how you eat and having more of a plant focus in our diets is going to be helpful as well. A little wine ain't never hurt anybody, and wine at 5, moderate alcohol consumption can help people. And belonging, having some sort of faith-based practice will help us live longer. Putting our family first and valuing the aging community and giving them the support they need is going to allow them to gracefully enter their golden years and have a high quality of life. And then finally, having a social network. So realizing that happiness as well as loneliness are both contagious. And the more that we surround ourselves with people who think like us, move like us, act like us, the more likely we're going to carry on those behaviors that are most important to us. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please stay tuned for future episodes of Munch and Learn with Dr. Constance. Have a great day.